Hello, everybody. It is Tuesday night, and you are with us on the Paranormal Lens. My name is Chad Thomas. That's Jamie Widener over there. And we are with Jott-Nyx Paranormal, and we are here to talk about paranormal stuff.
Wait,
Right?
really? Is that what we do?
Well, I hope so.
Cool.
That's what the title says.
Oh, yeah, it's true. Truth in advertising.
Oh, Jamie, so what's going on?
Sir, it is the Monday Tuesday ever. So, it's just been a day, but all is well now. This is the highlight. Every Tuesday we go through our day and, the stuff that we do. And here we land here and get to have some fun. So looking
Hmm.
forward to something I don't even know anything about tonight. This, what's this called? Hidden Fork? No. Hold the
No,
door? No.
no. Be careful.
Uh,
You don't end up swearing.
Oh, yeah. What the huh?
So,
Really curious about the episode tonight, so I'm looking forward to it. But before we get there, how was your week? What's going on?
well, hey, we were back at the brewery on Saturday night. I
True
mean,
story.
it's been I can't count. It was October was the last time we were there. October like 18th or something like that.
2 or 3 years ago, maybe. It feels like forever.
It
Really, I mean,
feels
I'm
like
kidding, but it did feel like forever. So
so,
3
but it was
months, it's a long time.
yeah, it was great to be back. I haven't seen some of the team members in that long,
That's true. That's true.
so um,
And
but
we had some good guests with us. Bert and Heather Lynch joined us
mhm,
from Southern End Paranormal. So it was good to see them and get out and then actually investigate with them again. We've done it before. We'll do it again, of course, coming up. But
mhm,
just to have that. And I have, I'm not gonna say this to be, negative toward guests, but it is nice once in a while to investigate the place that you are always at without having folks with you.
mhm,
Who there's an expectation when you host an event. And
right,
those who've done it, you know what I mean? And even those who have been guests, you have an expectation when you put money down as a ticket holder. You have a certain expectation what you're gonna get. And
yep,
there's pressure therefore,
mm,
and the what we do is so, we say this all the time, no one's going to walk out of the wall and introduce themselves. Things may or may not happen. Our trademark is not to force evidence or force opportunities for things. If it happens, it happens. The
right,
reality is that 99% of the time we walk around in the dark and talk to ourselves, right?
right,
So, but it's still good to get to that place and just to reconnect, which is
hmm,
what we did.
yep. And we had some interesting things happen in a couple of the places.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, Bert said he thought it was nice just for just us.
Yep.
So
I agree, Bert. And looking forward to some more opportunities there too.
yeah. Um, yeah, well, let's see. We had a really interesting experience in the Dragonfly room. Just a
Yeah.
lot of activity in there. Um, what else? We did very little downstairs in the catacombs this time, but I guess we had some stuff upstairs, and just it was an interesting night. You
Yeah.
know.
For those who haven't been to Booby's Brewery in Mountjoy, PA, first of all, shame. I mean, if you're out of the country or something, I understand. But if you're anywhere near South Central PA, you got to get there. Uh, but with that, there are 3 levels. There's a ground level, which is the original bar for the entire establishment, the Eloise Bar in the Central Hotel. There's the second floor, which was the original residence quarter for the Booby family. And then there's a catacombs, which is about 43 feet underground. It's a cavern that's been transitioned into a restaurant. But it was originally storage and beer prepping for the
Hmm.
brewery. So all 3 areas are part of what we investigate when we do public events. And each layer has its own uniqueness to it as far as the common things that happen. So, and I
Yeah.
do, and I see Todd and Carmela have joined us. Welcome, guys. It's good to see you. Happy New Year to you both as well. It feels like a good time to step into this. When they were with us back at our spectacular event in October, you'll recall they had a toy or a toy. I should call it a toy. It's not a toy. They had a piece of equipment called a dead bell, and I well, when you see something like, you just know you have to have, I had to have it. So I was fortunate enough to be able to say I wanted it for Christmas and it was gotten for me. And I got to break that out as well. We had quite a bit of activity with it on the second floor in the residence
Mhm.
level. So that was a new piece of equipment that was taken to quite easily and really well. So
Yeah, they definitely interacted with it quite a bit.
yeah, yeah, and certainly back at the rear end, where rear end of the room, or the rear of the room, rear end of the room. It sounds like a butt, but um, but
Uh-huh.
it definitely had some activity back there. And Tim and Erica
Mhm.
Bergen were with us too from our Jott-Nyx, New Jersey team, and they had a bell as well. So both
Yep.
were actually active around the same time as well, which was really cool to have two pieces of equipment, going off in succession or simultaneously, just
At
to really help
opposite ends of the
validate.
room.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
So
looking forward to using that some more.
definitely. So
Fun night, really cool.
it was.
And just a quick question here from Todd and Carmela: did you play with the sensitivity level? Absolutely. It has a dial, and it's a bell. Just like a bell you would see on the counter, like the cook would ring when the orders are up.
Hmm.
Whatever it is. At the hotel front desk, and it has the sensitivity dial on it. It's a manual push as well, so you can actually ring it yourself. Um, and with the sensitivity as it goes up, it certainly has more. It allows more frequency to come into it, so it can pick up more things, which can be challenging, like with any piece of equipment, because there may be false positives with activity in the electromagnetic activity of the place you're at. Static electricity even can set these things off. So here we are in winter where everything is, you touch it, you get zapped by it. So
Right.
yeah, I did, and to answer the question, I definitely had it down to its lowest setting, and it wasn't nearly as active as it was when it was higher. So certainly that was that was a trick I learned from Todd and Carmela back then as well, a couple months ago. So I'm listening when you speak. See how
Yep.
learning, always
But
learning.
but the other nice thing is, like you said, Tim and Erica were there, and Tim is very knowledgeable when it
Yeah.
comes to
Oh yeah.
electronics like this. He's built some of his own stuff, so to have him there explaining how some of this worked, it's always great to have him. And we keep saying we got to get him as a guest,
Yep.
and we have to get him as a guest, Jamie.
Yes, we discussed that as well. There's probably going to be in the early summer until we can
Okay.
free some schedules up and stuff. So,
Okay.
but yeah, definitely
So
cool. Well, but that's not what we're here for. Although it was a lot of fun.
no, yeah, it was. You're talking about. Oh no, I'm talking. I'm talking tonight. So
I'll talk about hold the phone all day. Sure.
no, 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 Jamie. No, it's Huldufólk.
Oh,
Okay.
I was way
So
wrong.
so we're gonna move into that now. I'm not sure if it happened or not, but Jamie was gonna get one of those little click counters.
I didn't do it.
It
Never mind.
didn't.
You're
Okay.
safe. I'm gonna count. I'm gonna count this way though. I got a manual counter.
He wanted to track how many times I messed up the name tonight, and I think he might be worried I might accidentally swear or something because it is it's pretty close. Um, but our topic tonight is hold. Now I'm going to
One.
be Huldufólk. So we're going to Americanize that a little bit. But let's dig in and see where this Icelandic folklore takes us. We're going to start with the name itself and break it down. Huldi or Hulda, Hulduu, is an Icelandic word that translates to hide or hidden, sometimes secret, depending on who's translating it. And the word folk means people, giving us hidden people. So, so these are mythical beings.
I'm not the only
These
one counting, by the way.
I see that. These mythical beings have captured the imagination of generations and still remain a cherished part of the Icelandic culture. So, to begin with, what exactly are the Huldufolk? In Icelandic folklore, they're described as hidden people who resemble humans but live in a parallel world. They are classified as elves that inhabit rocks, hills, and natural formations, blending seamlessly with their surroundings. What makes them so intriguing is their invisibility. They can choose to reveal themselves to humans, but it's rare and often for specific reason. They're deeply they're deeply tied to nature and are seen as protectors of the environment. In folklore, Huldufolk often appear as mirror societies to humans. They have families, farms, and traditions, and their way of life is thought to parallel Icelandic rural life from centuries past. This depiction reinforces the idea of their closeness to humans and nature while also emphasizing their mystical qualities. Now, elves are found in folklore and stories of many countries, but they're typically stories of the past. But that's not the case with Iceland. Of the 300,000 human residents of Iceland, 5% believe beyond a shadow of a doubt that these creatures exist, while 49% take a more skeptical position and the rest don't believe in them at all. That may not sound like an overwhelming reason to believe, but we will dig into that a little bit later. So, Jamie, when you think of elves, what comes to mind?
Hmm. Well, Tolkien, first of all, with Lord of the Rings and that kind of stuff, because that's been Hollywoodized and commercialized. Um,
Hmm.
Keebler, right? Cookies. Um, Cookies. Um, I should have had dinner first. um, but yeah, that kind of stuff, just the,
So you,
and yeah, Bert agrees, Keebler. Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
definitely. Um,
So you're thinking smaller, like magical
yeah, I mean,
creatures.
if you're looking at, well, you're looking at it from a physical sense, yeah, very small thing. Um,
Mhm.
you know, Tinkerbell, from
Right,
Disney. Um,
right,
I mean, she's more of a fairy probably, but in that size spirit, something living under a mushroom in the forest kind of deal.
right.
Um, you know,
And that's that's what I think of when I think of an elf.
but it's a
But
commercial thing, right? Like
right,
that's what we've been presented with. So
right. Well,
that's
and
my true
books
bearing of
and
it.
yeah, like books and things like that. It always refers to them as small, like little people.
Yeah,
So
sure. Yes.
and that's what I think of, like a magical creature dressed very specifically. But that's not the case with the Huldufólk. They can be short or tall. Typically, they're actually taller than humans. Typically slender, but they can be slender or stout, just like humans. They both build societies, go to church, work and school, but it all seems to happen in a parallel world behind the rocks and stones of Iceland. So that's sort of intriguing and what makes it paranormal. So,
Yeah.
where did the beliefs of the hidden people originate? Some believe that the creatures can be traced back to Viking times, while others go even further back.
Hold on for a second. I totally forgot something. um, Jim,
Uh
resident
huh.
Santa, has an uh, you
Uh
know,
huh.
so perhaps a workshop in the North Pole.
Yep. Yep.
Maybe for snow
Yeah.
there too. So sorry, Jim.
Right.
I totally skipped that part. Christmas is so over now. Never ends, right?
Right. Now, but we are talking about Iceland, which is north. We're heading north there. So,
That's fair. Right. Hey, Kyle.
um, so we're back to where the origination of the stories came from. Um, some people believe that they go back to Viking times or even further back. There are at least three creation stories that I found about the Huldufólk. The first one roots in the biblical tradition, and it states that Adam and Eve had many children. Eve used to take good care of them by keeping them pristine, but on a visit from God Himself, she didn't have time to bathe and clean the children properly. Profoundly embarrassed by the situation, she hid the ones that had not been bathed. But of course, nothing can be hidden from an omniscient God. Knowing what Eve had done, God asked her, "Do you have more children?" And she straightforwardly answered no. To which God replied, "What is hidden from me must also be hidden from humans." And this is how the children of Eve became invisible to the eyes of men. And these hidden children became the Huldufólk. So that's the first story. Um, the second story is loosely tied to Christian beliefs. Is about we'll get to that part. It's going to sound a little different at first, but
Yeah.
it's about a traveler who gets lost and stumbled onto a farm one night. He knocked on the door and is greeted by an elderly woman who invited him in. The woman provides him with a supper and introduces the traveler to her daughters. The traveler is then given a bed for the night, and he asks if one of the women's daughters could keep him company, a request which his hostess agreed to. In bed, the traveler tried to embrace the young lady, but his hands passed right through her. The traveler inquired what was going on, and he was told the story of the Huldufólk, which the family was one of. In this tale, the Huldufólk came into being following the revolt of Lucifer in heaven, as they were those who neither supported nor opposed the devil and his fallen angels. As a result of their neutrality, the Huldufólk were driven down to earth and forced to live in the rocks and hills. So, our final origin story isn't really a story, but it comes from pagan beliefs. Before Christianity reached Iceland, the Huldufólk were thought to be nature spirits or elves connected to Norse mythology. They're linked to Alvor or elves and Landvitir, the guardian spirits of the land. Those are the only two of the Icelandic words that I'm going to get close tonight. So we'll just get that out of the way now. Um, the rest, the beings reflect a blend of pagan spirituality and Christian narratives. Some also suggest the Huldufólk were a way to personify the mysterious and powerful forces of nature. Iceland's rugged landscapes, with their unpredictable weather, volcanic eruptions, and endless wilderness, fostered a belief in unseen forces that demanded respect and care. Still today, for many in Iceland, the Huldufólk are not merely fictional characters in the country's colorful mythology. There seems to be a profound belief in the existence of these supernatural beings. There are those who claim that they have the ability to see and communicate with the Huldufólk. So, they hold a special place in Icelandic folklore. They're part of an oral tradition passed down through generations, emphasizing the connection between humans and nature. Their stories teach us to respect the land and live in harmony with the environment. Themes of humanity, kindness, and environmental stewardship run throughout these tales. Some popular legends describe the Huldufólk warning farmers about impending disasters, like floods or eruptions, allowing them to save their livestock. Other stories involve humans who offended the Huldufólk by damaging their habitats, only to suffer misfortunes until amends were made. These narratives reinforce the importance of balance and respect. In modern times, the Huldufólk continue to inspire art, literature, and even tourism. Visitors to Iceland can join guided tours that highlight sites linked to the Huldufólk stories, keeping the tradition alive. One popular destination is the Elf School in Reykjavik, where attendees can learn about the hidden schools and other Icelandic myths, about the hidden people and other Icelandic myths. So, if you know, there's our road trip, Jamie. We go to Iceland.
It was called at 1339 already, so there it is. Todd and Carmela claimed it.
All right, so yeah, we can go to the elf school and study that, and then they will like take you on a tour of the things, and yeah, so
Elf School.
so
All right.
so that's sort of some of the history of it, the background. Now, remember when I said that 5% believed and 49 were skeptical about the Huldufólk?
Right.
You wouldn't think that would make an impact on everyday life, right?
Yeah,
But
probably not.
there
Right.
right. But there have been cases where construction projects were delayed or altered to avoid disturbing what's believed to be Huldufólk habitats, such as large boulders or lava fields. Workers often report strange equipment malfunctions or accidents during these projects. And it has even prompted an official statement from the Icelandic Road Administration, which was, in recent decades, there have been a few alleged incidences of road construction intruding on elf settlements in cursed places. These problems have been resolved. Now, it seems curious to me that an official government agency would put out a statement like that. I think in the United States, you'd be sort of laughed out of office.
Yeah.
So, I was reading the High on Adventure website and came across an article written in 2017 by Vivki Anderson. The entire article was about Huldufólk, which she called secret people instead of hidden people. And here are some of the stories about how construction was affected by the creatures. So this is a lot word for word from there, but I found it interesting. So south of Reykjavik, Iceland's capital city, a small boulder called Alfhol or Elf Hill is believed to be the home of elves that has caused roadwork issues since the late 1930s. Jutting into the desired path of a new road, the initial project was immobilized by financial issues. Another construction attempt years later was brought to a halt due to constant broken equipment and missing tools. By the late 1980s, it was decided to level the hill, but two drills broke when workers tried to bore through the rock. News reporters covering the problem found their cameras wouldn't work. These difficulties were finally resolved by routing the road around the rock, and now Alfhol is protected as a cultural heritage. So, expansion plans for another highway near Reykjavik encountered a series of misfortunes in the early 1970s when it was discovered an elf rock known as Granstein was in the way. A medium was brought in to obtain permission to move it. This was granted, but unfortunately, the rock broke in the process. That night, one of the equipment operators who helped reset Granstein accidentally accidentally drove a bulldozer across the water supply line to a fish farm, and tens of thousands of the fish did not survive. So, building a road over Trollskard, the Trolls Pass in Hengreens in the late 1970s required blasting some rocks. When Hafstein Borgensen, a noted medium, informed the engineers the site was cursed, a compromise was attempted. Sadly, Borgensen passed away before this was accomplished. The construction foreman then had dreams warning him against removing the rocks, followed by equipment problems at the site. When the decision was made to work around the troublesome rocks instead of disturbing them, the project progressed without any further issues. So there seems to be a theme here. In 1955, workers extending the West Forge Highway encountered, I'm going to skip the Icelandic word here, cloven rocks protruding over the planned roadway. Elves thought to be living in the rocks were blamed for minor accidents and equipment breakdowns, convincing the contractor the rocks shouldn't be moved. A local woman who could communicate with the Huldufólk assured the workers that there were no elves in the rocks and received permission from neighboring elves to supervise the relocation of those cloven rocks. Once done, there were no further problems. Let's see. Ofagiskar, a 50-ton boulder believed to be an elf church, lay in the route of a new major highway near Reykjavik that would cross an 8,000-year-old lava field. The elves informed the medium that we talked about earlier that Ofagiskar, which means actually elf church, has been used as a beacon to guide people through the lava field for centuries, and asked for her help. After she contacted the mayor in 2015, a construction crew gently moved the elf church out of the way and the new highway was built. I practiced these words, I swear.
Yeah, I know.
Let's see. The Akuri Tunnel.
That was really interesting. Like, the whole. I mean, we do this in like forestry sometimes, like redwoods specifically in Southern
Mhm,
California, where the roads go around them on purpose because they are heritage sites for so many things, but also it's habitat and other stuff. So even without moving this just because of hold the folk, there is
mhm,
still habitats, natural habitats for the things that live in that area to utilize. So it's really kind
mhm.
of cool in a lot of ways.
Yep.
Okay.
So, let's see. The Akuri Tunnel in the northern part of Iceland was finally completed in 2017 after a 2-year delay due to floods. Workers theorized that the water fissures might be the work of elves not pleased about the 4.5-mile tunnel, Icelandic's longest, that shortened the old mountain road by 10 miles, being bored through their landscape. Messing with the Huldufólk's environments can be a serious thing. Elves were blamed for a 2011 rain of rocks onto a neighborhood street in Bulgarvik, possibly in response to an anti-avalanche barrier and tunnel built without their consent the prior year. After a local musician wrote a song of appeasement and an apology ceremony was conducted, things returned to normal. As the Icelandic Road Administration explains, we value the heritage of our ancestors, and if oral tradition passed on from one generation to the other tells us that a certain location is cursed or that supernatural beings inhabit a certain rock, then this must be considered a cultural treasure. So I find that pretty cool
Yeah.
that there doesn't have to be something specific proven to have happened there. It's even folklore is enough to deem it a cultural or treasure. So sometimes you need to stay ahead of the game. In 2004, Alcoa wanted to build an aluminum smelter, but first a government specialist had to confirm that the desired construction site did not contain any archaeological or Huldufólk related sites. An elf hill in Reykjavik, destined to be leveled for the construction of a new apartment complex, was saved by locating the building behind the knoll rather than on top of it. Another home to the Huldufólk, Dwarfstone, was left undisturbed when the National Church of Iceland was built in Hafnarfjörður, when they rerouted a roadway around the Elf Rock on Merkurgata Street. And neighbors on Vesterbrunn incorporated a shared Huldufólk into their landscaping. Even if the majority of Icelanders say they can't see the Huldufólk, many people welcome them and provide a place in their gardens for tiny wooden elf houses. And I find it interesting that they use the tiny wooden elf houses when they are full size like human size. I shouldn't say human beings because they're not. But so Icelanders not only appease, accommodate, and welcome their Huldufólk neighbors, they sometimes go to great effort and expense to show their appreciation and help their elf friends. Former member of the Icelandic Parliament, Arne Johnson, credits a boulder inhabited by elves for saving his life. When his SUV slid off a cliff and overturned, coming to rest against a 30-ton rock, which destroyed his vehicle, but restrained him from tumbling onward towards his death, he emerged without major injury. 3 years later, a road was to be built which would destroy the boulder, so Johnson reached out to a medium to help in saving the elf rock that had saved him. Then there are some personal accounts. Some travelers in remote areas of Iceland claim to have seen mysterious figures or lights. Well, there we go with the lights again. Others tell stories of receiving guidance or warnings during dangerous weather conditions, attributing these acts of kindness to the Huldufólk. For instance, a stranded hiker once described being led to safety by an ethereal figure who then vanished without a trace. Again, not the first time we've heard that story.
Nope. True.
Another story from the Icelandic Roots website goes like this. It was in September of 1858 when all the people at Ulfstori were at the sheep sorting above the farm. 2 boys were to drive the horses from the field by the Klopin, which is a big rock, like a large rock, and then come home as night was falling. The older brother went back to the sorting place, but he thought the younger one had gone directly to the house. When the people came home, they found that the boy, Christian Christensen, was not there. He was lost. Christian was 8 years old and a very ordinary boy. All the adults began searching for the boy, and people from adjacent farms came to help. They searched until midnight without success, but decided to keep on the next morning. Everyone went back to bed, but the people at the Ulfa store were still awake and going on with faint lights to every room, even though the house had been searched thoroughly. Just by the front door of the house, there was a loft, and under a staircase which led up to the loft was a small corner. Suddenly, someone passing saw Christian lying in the corner, curled up asleep, and he had obviously been crying for quite a time. He was immediately brought to the living room, washed, and put to bed. Although his parents tried to get out of Christian what had happened, he would not say a word about it. Only later he told his friend, about his age, from the next farm of the experience that evening. He said, he had been a little later than his brother to the house when he approached, he saw a woman. He assumed it was his mother go from the house towards the sheep shelter just beneath the Klopin. There were some stacks of sheep manure there, which were used as firewood, and his mother would often go there to fetch some of it for the fire in the kitchen. He called out to her, but she did not answer. When she had just reached the stack, she turned around, and he realized that this was not his mother. He wanted to run back to the house, but she grabbed him and put her hand over his mouth. Then she went with him up to the Klopin, which then looked like a house with several gables. She brought him inside and closed the door, called a girl, and ordered him to play with her. Christian cried and shouted and did not want anything but to get away. The woman got angry and hit him, but in between she was also kind to him. At last she became very angry and violent, hit him, and threw him at last into the corner where he was found later that night. So that's a little interesting tale there. So, as we wrap up, the Huldufólk remind us of the rich cultural tapestry that folklore weaves. They're a blend of history, religion, and tradition that highlights Iceland's deep respect for nature and mysteries. Whether you believe in them or not, the story of the Huldufólk encourages us to tread lightly and appreciate the world around us. Their tales also serve as a reminder that human imagination has always sought ways to explain the inexplainable and connect us to the land we inhabit. So before we jump into it, I want to cover a couple of the other sources that I found. Um, Ancient Origins website, releasepeace.org, highonadventure.com, octavia.net, and ancientpages.com. So that's my story tonight, Jamie. What do you think?
Wow, well, that's really cool. First of all, and I think your closing really nailed it. Like the balance point between nature and modernization. This holds the line in so many ways by the evidence of the protected stones and the belief. Even though it's a small scale sense of the populace, there's a strong enough belief that if you don't protect, some things will go down. So I think
Right.
that's really interesting. And I'm going to pull up a comment here from Bert just a little while ago. He says, it sounds like the fairy forts in Ireland. They build up, excuse me, they will build them around them in order to not to disturb them. They take them very seriously. So
Hmm.
I'm assuming that means that if some kind of a structure is built around an area that is believed to be a fairy habitat or a domicile of some kind, just to preserve and protect it, which the same idea, right?
Right.
You're keeping that space safe from the intrusion of us in the modern world.
Right.
And if nothing more, it's protecting nature in at least in a small sense of it,
Hmm.
some parcel of it that would be absorbed, and we live in an area in South Central Pennsylvania here that is some of the most fertile and valuable land in the country for agriculture.
Correct. Yeah.
And I'm fortunate enough to live near two farms and have a farm stand really close by, and I take full advantage of that all through the seasons that I can. But no farms, no food kind of thing. Is a bumper sticker that we all see every once in a while. And the point is that we keep taking that land and turning it into residential or commercial development. We're
Right.
building houses on land that was protected and preserved. And we have a farmland trust here in our area that has been working with farmers to secure their properties for generations to come, and it won't become developed.
Right.
But what the ability of that group to do versus the scale of land that we have, it's just not keeping up. So it's the same spirit, pun
Hmm.
intended, maybe, um, but not in the sense that there's a fairy or an elf habitat or anything like that on it. It's just the fact that the land is valued and
Right.
needs to be protected. So all of this works. However,
Hmm.
and if there is a true presence of a paranormal entity like an elf or a fairy or whatever else, that's even better. That's cool, right?
Right.
But at least we're holding on to those spaces and not letting them be overdeveloped.
Yep. So, and even when I mean, development is inevitable. Like, but they at least are taking the time to go around
Yeah, and they're still
things
built.
with
You're right.
culture.
Yeah, they're
You
still
know,
built on the highway, and the building is still the apartment building still got built and other things, but they at least were willing to work around and find a compromise to
hmm
protect the stuff.
I always forget the just the natural beauty that's in Iceland. You don't think of it because it's that, oh, it's Iceland. It's
And the
not
name, right? It's cold, dark, dreary. Yeah,
those Vikings. um, but just with the volcanoes and the beauty, and it's just like the power and the beauty all together is just
yeah.
amazing. And I think that's where some of these stories come from. So
Well, sure. And there is, it's a seasonal issue, right? Now this time of year it is exactly that. It's icy, it's cold. It's glacierish. It's got some. Uh, and yeah, Dave, dare me. Hi, Dave. By the way, yeah, take me to the fjords. Sure, exactly that. Um, but once spring comes and the thaws begin, by summer, and I have friends uh, the Yukon territory in Canada. We joke all the time about they have 2 good weeks in the summer where it's nice, before it snows again. Everything
Uh-huh.
melts and it starts again. It's not that long. I mean, it's not
Right.
that short. Sorry, it may seem like it, but this is the same thing. Once things thaw out, the natural beauty is there. It's gorgeous country,
Mhm.
and I'm looking at a map actually. I just pulled up for curiosity. It's a place I've not been to quantify that. But everything is along the coast, as you kind of would expect, because
Mhm.
it's rugged inland. But they have, half the country's a national park as well. So they're working to protect and preserve those spaces, that
Yes.
natural beauty.
Mhm.
So they figured it out. It's
Mhm.
really great.
So, uh, looking at Todd and Carmela's comment here, very interesting story. Since they are elves, any connection or reference to the jolly old man in the North Pole? Um,
Well,
no, actually, there's
Jim's
not.
here, so
Jim's here, but there was no connection to that because I think again these are um, more humanoid, and I almost feel like it's more so like ghosts where they can be seen when they don't want to, like
yeah,
they come and go, and I just
right.
find
It's
that is
discretionary observation. Yeah, like
yeah,
you can be seen and not be seen.
yeah. Um, some interesting things. Tolkien, you were talking about Tolkien earlier.
Yeah,
There's a lot of his stories were based off of the Icelandic
yep,
um, Huldufólk. Jules Verne's Journey to the Center of the Earth was Iceland. So
I forgot about that, but yeah, you're absolutely right.
so there's a lot of literary ties to this folklore. So I find it really cool.
This is interesting, and you know the idea that they're visible and invisible when as they wish.
Hmm.
It kind of makes you wonder. And the gentleman who had an accident, that terribleness of going over a cliff, bad
Right.
news, right? But that whole unseen presence kind of thing, just that's interesting too, because that's in a lot of other areas of the world. The story, well, it's the third man syndrome to some degree, right? We
Right.
covered that a while back. But more so than that, it's like the idea of being, like we talked about with Jin, and we talked about with Ure and a few other things, where there's a hierarchy, maybe, and there's good and bads,
Right.
and maybe some ambivalence as well. And that kind of seemed like how they came to be in some of the origin stories, with maybe
Hmm.
just being neutral, um, and not necessarily going out of their way to help this fellow, but if his car crashed on their house,
Right.
this big rock, maybe they were compelled,
Right.
to get rid of him, like, to help him to get rid of the thing. I
Right.
don't know. I mean, obviously it's all very speculative, but
Yeah.
it's interesting too how all of this, we can tie things together when we want to, right?
Hmm.
And we always in a different direction. It's like data, right? Data doesn't lie unless you want it to.
Right.
You want it to angle in a certain direction. You'll find a way to skew it to your data set, to your point that you want to make, or the thing you want to get, whatever it is. Um, and so maybe that's part of it too. Is we're just trying to find ways to make that this all make sense, and we put that part to it. It's all very curious. Again, a Holder folk hasn't walked down the road and said, "Hi, I'm such and such, and I'm one of them." You
Right.
know,
Well,
so
except for the guy that was staying at the farm,
well,
and
fair, right? Very, very fair. Yeah, but on the whole, I don't. You didn't
right.
tell that story, so it's not been documented
Right.
per se.
So yeah, it's definitely interesting. Like,
This is a cool comment too.
go
Uh,
ahead.
Todd and Carmelo have said, "I really wish there was a place like the Jules Verne Journey to the Center of the Earth. We'd go road trip." Yes, yeah, agreed.
Yeah. So yeah, it's one of those like I don't know if it's true, but I'd sort of like to believe it to be true. Like,
Yeah,
but
that's a really good. way of saying it. And I think, well, that's like most everything we talk about here, isn't it?
Mhm.
I mean, without physical evidence, and again, there's no bodies, there's no, if they don't want to be seen, they're not seen, all that stuff. Uh, but I want to believe it. I think it's really
Right.
great. And if it's even half of what's been described, that's pretty awesome too. So
True. Yep.
cool stuff.
So
Yeah, and Bert has followed up the journey to the center of the earth. Yeah, Todd and Carmela, but easier to get back. Right? That's pretty far. So
yeah.
uh,
So
that's a book I read a very long time ago. I'd have to revisit it to get all the details. But yeah, it's what a journey, pun intended.
yeah.
Yeah,
That's one of those high school college books that we probably should revisit at some point, huh?
yeah, that's a great story. Vern did a
Hmm.
good job on a lot of things.
So any final thoughts or comments on this, Jamie? Where are you?
Just really good topic, and we made fun of it obviously in the weeks leading up to it with the pronunciation and all that stuff. And you did a fantastic job. I trust me, I know. you know, we do things that are unique, out of country stuff. They aren't just the languages of the world are as an English speaker, some are challenging.
Hmm.
You handled this really, really well. You presented a whole lot of cool stuff, well researched, just a really fun topic. So thank you so very much. Um,
Sure. I do
and
want to say there were way too many consonants in most of these words.
yeah, yes, you need to start buying some letters, right? Yeah, totally understand that one.
So
So great, great stuff. Not much more to add.
okay, cool. Well then, if you don't have anything else to add, let's jump into what's coming up
Yeah,
shortly.
sure. I'll take that. Try to make my screen a little bigger here. So next week, on Paranormal Lens, I'm going to tackle the story of Robert the Doll, which is a allegedly haunted object that's been around for quite a while, actually. So there's a lot of cool stories around it, um, and we'll see if we can determine whether it's paranormal or not. After that, the 28th chat's going to tackle the Philadelphia experiment, and after that, we're going to talk about a gentleman named Hans Holzer, who is maybe the grandfather of paranormal investigating. I don't know. He's got a place on the Mount Rushmore for me, and a fellow of a lot of interest for stuff. So the more I dig into him, it's like an onion. There's a lot of layers. So
Hmm.
quite a character. And then after that, the Green Children of Woolpit, which is a sounds like it's going to be fun too. Did they eat too much Jello? Green Jello? Is that why they're green? No.
I'm not gonna go into any. I'm not gonna give any spoilers,
All right.
Jamie.
All right. So sour apple Jello it is. Okay. Oh, ectoplasma Kool Aid from back in the day. So
You may have one less viewer next week, Jamie.
maybe. All right. Well, I hope you join us.
So Carmela said "ooh" about the next episode.
I saw it. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a dicey one. So we'll do it right. Don't worry. Um, Also, too, yeah. Speaking of investigations, we talked about being at Booby's Brewery over the weekend, as it is our home base, and our public schedule has been released for most of the year, if not all of the year. So we'll get to that in the next slide. But also know that you can book a private investigation for just you or your team, versus coming into a investigation with the public. And generally speaking, we have about 30 tickets available for each event. We break everybody into teams or groups, and then get to investigate all the different spaces. But when you do a private investigation, you can kind of go and do as you wish. You have the place to yourself. So if you're interested at all, contact us via Melissa Keller. That's mkeller 606. I'm sorry, at gmail.com, and she'll get back to you right away with dates and availability and pricing and all that stuff. So, and of course, there is accommodations on site, either by the hotel on the third floor, or the Malt Baron Mansion, which is an Airbnb across the street, all part of the Boobies Brewery property. And Chad, you know as well as I do, Mount Joy is much more fun when you sleep over.
You
So,
sleep over, yeah. So,
yeah,
and if you want investigators to come help you that night, you'll
yeah,
probably get some volunteers.
yeah, you know us. So, and happy to help there too. So, keep in touch with us.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And speaking of events, So these are still tentative. They have not been officially released to the Boobies Brewery website, so the ticketing is not open yet. But these dates are at least on our all of our calendars at this point. So coming up on February 22nd will be our first public event of the year. March 22nd after. And April 10th, we're doing a road trip of our own. We're going with our sister team, Jott-Nyx, New Jersey folks, and some of our members of our Jott-Nyx home team out to Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum. So we're going to talk about that as we get a lot closer to the date. That seems so far away, Chad, but it is absolutely not. It's less than 3 months now. So,
Yeah.
goodness. And it's right around, if I'm not mistaken, right around our 100th episode, right in that window.
Yep.
So
That's right.
we'll have some fun with that. And then April 26th, we're back at the brewery with a Para-Unity public investigation, which means we're going to partner with another paranormal team to host for that evening. So more details on exactly who that will be as we get much, much closer. So, but some cool stuff coming up. And then, of course, as we get a little further down the road, we'll get those future dates out for May, June, July, and so forth. We'll try to about a quarter at a time. That way, it's not overwhelming. But if you're interested in coming and you're not sure what the dates are, just shoot us a message. You can find us in a lot of different ways here, of course, and leaving a message in the chat. Whether you're watching on Facebook or YouTube here with our live program, but also you can shoot us an email at paranormallenspodcast@gmail.com at any time. Just ask, subjects as, hey, what are the dates, or I'm interested, what do you got? And we'll get right back to you on that.
Mm-hmm.
You can also find us too, if you're after the live broadcast, you'll find us on all the major streaming services. You can always leave a comment on that as well. And we'll certainly see it and get back to you right away. So,
Yep.
and then speaking of the streaming services, obviously, this is episode 87, Chad. Is that right? Something like that?
It sounds
88,
close.
yeah, something in the higher 80s. So all of our past episodes are available on all the streaming services, the Spotify's, Apple's, iHeart's, Audible, etc. Probably a few I've missed. There's more out there than I can count anyway. So same idea there. If you're interested, if you like what you're seeing tonight, there's plenty of other episodes to keep an eye on. We've
Mm-hmm.
covered a lot of stuff over all these
This is
episodes.
the 87th.
87, I thought it was. Okay. Wow. So, and with that, feel free to leave us a review if you can, if your service if that service allows, or some stars. Give us a ranking. We appreciate the feedback. It really helps us know that we're on the right track, and presenting information and topics that are of interest to you. And if you have something you'd like us to cover, we certainly are willing to and able to do listener submissions. We've done many along the way. Again, just drop us a line either via an email, paranormallenspodcast@gmail.com, or leaving a comment on one of the episodes, and we'll follow through and get it on for you. We self-produce, so we can move our schedule around anytime we want to, and
Yep.
accommodate certainly stuff you want to see. So let us
Yep.
know.
So Todd and Carmela, thanks for the comment. We appreciate you guys being here, as we appreciate everybody who's here every week.
Yep,
Um, Jamie, we are working. Jott-Nyx is working on a website,
it's true.
so
I'm aware.
that'll be hopefully added to that list in the near future. Takes some time to get these things up and running, but
If you're going to do it right.
yeah,
So we'll make sure that we'll make sure everything works on it first. That's the most important thing.
yeah,
Is,
that's what I'm
and,
fighting right now.
and I will steal a comment from our good friend Ron Yacovetti, and actually Lourdes Gonzalez as well. We'll make sure it has timing and relevance to it. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, more to come on that. Absolutely.
So yeah. So I just had a moment screen completely blank.
No,
Can you hear me?
no, not really well. Something just happened. You buzzed in and buzzed out real quick.
Yeah, my whole system crashed, but came right back. So
Yeah, that's what it looked like. You just went dark and then like a flash. So you're a little funky sounding, but I got you.
that's good.
All right. Well, technology, ain't it great?
Uh-huh.
It's still better than us sitting here with two soup cans and a string. So
So there, I think I'm back
yeah,
now. Is
there you
that
go.
better?
Much better. Very cool.
So all right. Well, I guess it's a good thing I came back, Jamie, because I don't know if you would have been able to know how to roll us out of here.
I'm just going to hit the end button. That's all I know.
So
Yeah,
well, on
Chad
that,
did it a lot. Chad makes this all work. So, dude, I appreciate you. Please don't fade out, just to be safe.
So, well, I'm still here. So anyway,
Yeah,
thanks
aside
everybody.
from Carmela,
We
there's spirits involved in this. There's a
there it
ghost
is.
machine, if you will. So, um,
So so we will see everybody next week. All right,
yeah,
Jamie.
looking forward to it. Robert the Doll coming your
So
way.
all right. Thanks everybody. Have a great night.
Take care.